Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 6 of Module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're officially on the downhill slope of Module 2. We've passed the halfway point, and the momentum we're seeing from all of you in the community is just fantastic.
It really is. We've spent the first half of this module, which we call the Rhythm of Fluency, building your physical foundation. We've talked about sentence stress, the lazy schwa sound, connected speech, intonation, and in our last episode, the incredible power of the pause.
Use thought groups and silent pauses to command a room.
But today, we're going back into the water. We know when to stop the river, but today we're going to learn how to make the river flow even faster and more smoothly between those pauses. Today, we're unlocking Contraction Mastery.
Before we get into the mechanics of squeezing words together, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're getting value out of this 50-episode journey and you want to support the show, please hit the like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the absolute best way to help us reach more learners who are stuck in the translation trap and need a blueprint to find their fluency. Thanks so much for being part of this movement.
Now, Ben, let's talk about contractions. For a lot of traditional English learners, the word contraction actually brings up feelings of guilt.
Guilt's the perfect word for it. When we learn English in a traditional classroom setting, especially in countries where English is taught strictly for academic or testing purposes, contractions are strictly forbidden. Teachers will draw massive red circles around them on your essays.
They drill it into your head that you must write, "I do not know," instead of, "I don't know." They tell you that contractions are lazy, unprofessional, informal, and basically a sign of bad English.
And while that might be true for a formal university research paper, it's a complete lie when it comes to spoken English. In spoken English, refusing to use contractions actually makes you sound robotic, overly formal, and sometimes even a little bit angry.
Exactly. If we're sitting at a coffee shop and I ask you if you want a pastry and you look at me and say, "I do not want one," I'm going to think I offended you. The lack of a contraction feels harsh. It feels like a wall.
But if you say, "I don't want one," it feels relaxed and friendly. Contractions are the absolute standard for spoken English. From the president giving a speech on television, to a CEO in a boardroom, to friends at a pub, native speakers use contractions constantly.
They're mandatory for fluency. If you want to ride the rhythm of the language, you've got to use them. So today, we're going to break down the different levels of contractions, starting from the basic grammar words and moving all the way up to advanced spoken reductions.
Let's start with the basics, what we call standard pronoun contractions. These are the ones you probably already know from your textbooks, but you mightn't be pronouncing them optimally for fast speech.
We're talking about taking a pronoun like I, you, he, she, it, we, or they, and crashing it into a verb like am, is, are, have, will, or would.
Let's look at the verb to be. I am becomes I'm. You are becomes your. He is becomes he's. She is becomes she's. It is becomes its. We are becomes we're. They are becomes their.
Now, visually, on paper, that makes perfect sense. You just erase a letter and put an apostrophe in its place. But physically, in your mouth, something much more important's happening. You're removing an entire syllable.
That's the key to the speed. You're going from 2 beats to 1 beat. I am 2 beats. I'm 1 beat. You're literally speaking twice as fast without moving your mouth any faster.
And the pronunciation of these words often trips up learners because they try to hold on to the original vowel sounds. Let's look at the word there. T-H-E-Y''re. A lot of students try to say they are, just pushing the two full words close together.
But a native speaker doesn't do that. The word there's pronounced exactly the same as the location word there, T-H-E-R-E, and the possessive word there, T-H-E-I-R. They're all identical. There, there, there.
Listen to how efficient that is. They're going to the store. It's just one smooth sound. What about we are? Students often say we are.
We reduce that to we're, and in fast connected speech, it often just sounds like the word were. We're going to be late. We're going to be late. We don't stretch out the E sound, we squeeze it to fit the rhythm.
Let's move to the have contractions. I have becomes I've. You have becomes you've. We have becomes we've. They have becomes they've. He has becomes he's. She has becomes she's.
Notice that he's and she's can mean either he is or he has. The context of the sentence tells you which one it is. If I say he's walking the dog, it means he is. If I say he's been to London, it means he has. Native speakers process this context instantly without thinking about it.
I've been there.
The will contractions are another great example of this. I will becomes I'll. You will becomes you'll. He will becomes he'll. She will becomes she'll. It will becomes it'll. We will becomes we'll. They will becomes they'll.
Let's talk about the pronunciation of I'll, because this one causes a lot of friction. Students try to clearly pronounce the I and the L, I'll.
In natural speech, the word I'll often sounds exactly like the word all, A-L-L, or the word I'll, A-I-S-L-E. I'll see you tomorrow. It's a very lazy, dark L sound at the back of the throat. I'll be right back.
And look at it will. It becomes it'll. This is a fascinating one because it creates a new rhythm. It'll be fine. We don't say it will be fine. That's too much mouth movement.
What about the would contractions? I would becomes I'd. You would becomes you'd. He would becomes he'd. She would becomes she'd. We would becomes we'd. They would becomes they'd.
Here, you're just attaching a soft D sound to the pronoun. I'd love to go. We'd better leave now. It's incredibly soft. You barely pop the D. If you push the D too hard, you stop the continuous airflow we learned about in episode 3.
Those are the standard pronoun contractions. They're the bread and butter of daily English. You've got to force yourself to use them. If you write a script for yourself to practice, don't write out the full words. Write the contractions. Train your eyes to read them and your mouth to speak them.
Now, let's step up to the next category, which is where things start to get a bit more complex. These are the negative contractions. This is when we attach the word not to a verb.
Do not becomes don't. Does not becomes doesn't. Did not becomes didn't. Are not becomes aren't. Is not becomes isn't. Have not becomes haven't. Has not becomes hasn't. Will not becomes won't. Would not becomes wouldn't. Can not becomes can't. Should not becomes shouldn't. Could not becomes couldn't.
That's a massive list, but they all follow a very similar phonetic rule. The O in the word not completely disappears, and we're left with an N and a T smashed together at the end of the word. N-T.
But here's the massive secret to sounding like a native English speaker. In natural, fast English, we almost never pronounce that final T.
This is a huge revelation for learners. You're taught to spell it with a T, so you logically try to pronounce it with a clear, sharp T. Don't, didn't, can't, with a big explosion of air at the end.
But remember what we learned in episode 3 about elision. When you've got a heavy consonant like a T at the end of a word, it stops the river from flowing. So native speakers just drop it. We use what's called a stop T, or a glottal stop.
A glottal stop means you start to make the T sound. You bring your tongue up to the roof of your mouth to stop the air, but you never release the explosion. You trap the air in your throat.
Listen to the difference. A robotic speaker says, "I don't know," with a sharp T. A native speaker says, "I don't know." The T's swallowed. The air stops abruptly after the N. I don't know.
I didn't see it.
This creates a major listening comprehension problem for students, particularly with the words can and can't. If the native speaker doesn't pronounce the T at the end of can't, how do you know if they're saying the positive can or the negative can't?
This ties perfectly back to episode 2, the schwa secret. Remember, the positive word can is a function word. It gets reduced to a lazy schwa. I can go. I can do it. It's very fast and quiet.
But the negative word can't is a content word. It carries crucial meaning. So we hit it with sentence stress. We make the vowel long and loud, and we use a wide, open A sound. Even if we drop the final T, the vowel tells the whole story.
Let's demonstrate. Ben, tell me you've the ability to swim.
I can swim.
Now tell me you don't have the ability to swim.
I can't swim. Listen to the vowel. Can't. I didn't even pop the T at the end, but you know it's negative because the vowel was stretched and strexed. I can't swim. This is the magic of the rhythm of fluency. The grammar's communicated through the music, not just the letters. If you try to say, I can swim with a big, loud vowel, a native speaker will think you're saying you can't swim, and confusion will follow.
So, with all negative contractions, focus on the stress. Hit the word hard, make the vowel clear, and then just trap the air at the end. Don't worry about popping the T. He doesn't like it. We wouldn't do that. They haven't finished.
Now that we've covered standard and negative contractions, we've got to talk about the final boss of English reductions. These are what we call informal contractions.
Some people call them slang, but that's actually completely incorrect. Slang's vocabulary that's specific to a generation or a subculture, like saying something's cool or lit. Informal contractions aren't slang. They're standard, universal phonetic reductions caused by speaking quickly. Every native speaker uses them.
We're talking about words like gonna, wanna, gotta, hafta, lemme, gimme, kinda, and sorta.
Let's break these down, because they're the absolute core of conversational flow. Going to becomes gonna. I am going to the store becomes I'm gonna go to the store.
Want to becomes wanna. I want to leave becomes I wanna leave. Notice we don't just reduce the word to, we actually smash the two words together into a brand new two-syllable word, wanna.
Gotta becomes gotta. I have got to go becomes I gotta go. The two T sounds merge into a soft, fast D sound, gotta. I gotta go.
Have to becomes hafta. I have to work becomes I have to work. The V sound in have physically transforms into an F sound because it's crashing into the unvoiced T of to, hafta.
Lemme becomes lemmy. Let me see it becomes lemme see it. The T disappears entirely and the M stretches out. Lemme.
Gimme becomes gimme. Give me a second becomes gimme a second. The V drops out and the M takes over. Gimme.
Kinda becomes kinda. It is kind of cold becomes it's kind of cold. The F drops off the word of, and we're left with a lazy schwa, kinda.
Sort of becomes sorta. I am sort of tired becomes I'm sorta tired.
It's vital to understand native speakers aren't actively choosing to be lazy when they use these words. It's physically uncomfortable and unnatural to say, I am going to go to the store and get a cup of coffee. The mouth begs for the shortcut. I'm gonna go to the store and get a cup of coffee.
Now, here's the golden rule for informal contractions. You absolutely must use them when you're speaking if you want to sound natural. However, you should almost never write them down, unless you're texting a close friend.
That's where the confusion comes from. Because you don't see them written in books or news articles, your brain assumes they aren't real words. But written English and spoken English are two completely different languages with different rule sets.
In written English, you follow the rules of the page. You write going to. In spoken English, you follow the rules of the mouth. You say gonna. You've got to separate the two in your mind.
I want to touch on one more advanced area of contractions, which is what happens when we start stacking them on top of each other. Native speakers love efficiency so much, we'll occasionally create double contractions.
Oh, these are fascinating. This happens most often with modal verbs in the past tense, words like would have, could have, and should have.
A textbook tells you to write I would have. A first-level contraction makes it I would've. But in fast speech, we crush it even further into I'd've. I''D''VE.
I'd have done it differently. Listen to that. Ida. 3 words reduced to 2 tiny syllables. Ida.
We also do this with could've and should've, but instead of double apostrophes, they just morph into new sounds altogether. Could've becomes could've, which sounds like coulda. I coulda been a contender.
Should've becomes shoulda, which sounds like shoulda. You shoulda told me earlier.
And would have becomes would've, which sounds like woulda. I woulda gone if it wasn't raining. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's the language of regret, but it flows so smoothly.
This phonetic blending is actually the cause of a very common grammar mistake made by native English speakers, 'cause would've sounds exactly like the words would of. You'll frequently see native speakers write out, I would've gone.
Yes, it drives English teachers crazy, but it proves our point perfectly. Native speakers learn the language by ear, not by eye. They hear the schwa sound and the v sound, and their brain writes down the word of, because they don't even realize they're using a contraction of the word have.
That tells you everything you need to know about the dominance of the schwa and connected speech. The sound overrides the spelling even for people born in the country.
So how'd you master all of these contractions? How'd you take them from a theoretical concept and build them into your physical muscle memory?
You can't do it by filling out worksheets. Writing don't 100 times on a piece of paper won't make your tongue move any faster. You've got to practice them physically.
You've got to return to the shadowing technique. When you shadow a native speaker, you must mimic their reductions perfectly. If they say gonna, you aren't allowed to say going to. You must match their laziness.
You also need to start visualizing sentences differently. When you see the words do not on a page, your brain needs to automatically translate it into the sound of don't. You need to read with the rhythm of fluency, not the rhythm of the printing press.
Which brings us to your mission for episode 6. Your homework for this week's gonna challenge your eyes and your mouth.
I want you to find a short paragraph of formal English text. It could be from a news website, a business report, or an academic article. The kind of text that uses 0 informal contractions.
Notice how rigid and formal it feels in your mouth.
Then I want you to take a pen and manually edit the text. Cross out every I am and write I'm. Cross out every have not and write haven't. Look for places where you can change going to into gonna or have to into have to.
You're translating written English into spoken English. You're adding the conversational shortcuts.
Once you've fully contracted the paragraph, read it out loud again. Focus on linking those new contracted words to the words around them. Feel how much faster you can get from the beginning of a sentence to the end without losing your breath.
After you've done that, come down into the comments section. We want you to type out one sentence from your paragraph in its original, formal state, and then type out the fully contracted, spoken version right below it.
For example, I do not want to go to the store because I do not have any money. And then below it, type, I don't want to go to the store because I don't have any money.
Show us how you're destroying the formal boundaries and embracing the river. We love seeing your examples, and it helps the whole community realize how much we all shrink the language when we speak.
Contractions Mastery, a massive milestone. When you stop fighting the urge to pronounce every letter, you suddenly find yourself keeping up with native speakers effortlessly.
You're doing incredible work. We've covered the engine, the melody, the pauses, and now the shortcuts. Your spoken English is transforming episode by episode.
In our next episode, episode 7, we're going to dive into the subtle power of vowels. We're going to look at vowel length and meaning and how making a sound just a fraction of a second longer can completely change what you're saying.
It's a deep dive into the micro details of pronunciation that make the difference between sounding like a student and sounding like a pro. You definitely won't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on the squeeze. Crush those pronouns. Swallow those T's. Embrace the gonna and the wanna.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you've enjoyed mastering contractions today, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Keep the river flowing.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
a piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 7 of Module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're officially moving into the final stretch of Module 2. We've laid down some incredible groundwork over the last 6 episodes, and today we're going to fine-tune the instrument even more.
We really are. This module's all about the rhythm of fluency. We've talked about the big picture stuff, like sentence stress, connected speech, and pausing. We also dug into contractions and that lazy schwa sound. But today, we're zooming in. We're looking at the micro music of English. Today's topic is vowel length and meaning.
Before we grab our magnifying glasses and dive into the vowels, we've got a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this 50-episode journey and you're feeling the physical shift in your pronunciation, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the best way to support the show and help us reach more learners who are struggling to sound natural. We appreciate every single one of you in this growing community.
Now, Ben, let's connect today's topic to our last episode. In episode 6, we talked about contractions, and specifically, we talked about dropping the final T sound in negative words like don't and can't.
Right. We talked about using a glottal stop. You trap the air in your throat instead of popping the T out of your mouth.
That rule blew a lot of minds, but it also brought up a massive question from our students. If native speakers are constantly dropping or swallowing the final consonants of their words, how in the world do we know what word they're actually saying?
That's the million-dollar question. If I say the word bat, like a baseball bat, and I swallow the T, and then I say the word bad, like a bad dog, and I swallow the D, how do you know the difference? I didn't clearly pronounce the final letter of either word.
If you're relying strictly on the consonants, you'd be completely lost. But native speakers aren't listening for the consonants at the end of the word. We're listening to the vowel in the middle of the word.
Exactly. This the secret of vowel length. In English, the length of your vowel, meaning how long you physically hold the sound with your vocal cords, tells the listener what consonant is coming at the end of the word, even if you don't fully pronounce that consonant.
To understand how this works, we've got to talk about the anatomy of your throat for just a minute. We need to categorize English consonants into two distinct groups: voiced consonants and unvoiced consonants.
This is a crucial physical shift. An unvoiced consonant is a sound made entirely with air. Your vocal cords don't vibrate at all. It's just wind passing through your lips or teeth.
A great example is the S sound. Let's try an experiment right now. Take your hand and place it flat against the front of your throat, right over your voice box. Now make a long S sound, like a snake.
You shouldn't feel any vibration on your hand. Your throat's completely still. The sound's being made entirely by the air pushing past your teeth. That means S is an unvoiced consonant.
Other unvoiced consonants include the F sound, the P sound, the T sound, and the K sound. They're all just puffs of air. P, T, K. No vibration.
Now, let's look at the other group, voiced consonants. For these sounds, you must turn your vocal cords on. Your throat has to vibrate to create the sound.
Keep your hand on your throat. We just did the unvoiced S sound. Now we're going to make the exact same mouth shape, but we're going to turn the voice box on and make a Z sound. Z.
You should feel a very strong buzzing sensation right under your hand. Your vocal cords are vibrating rapidly. That means Z is a voiced consonant.
Every unvoiced consonant usually has a voiced twin. The mouth shape's exactly the same, but the throat vibration changes. The unvoiced F becomes the voiced V. F, 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 v, v, v.
The unvoiced P becomes the voiced B. The unvoiced T becomes the voiced D. The unvoiced K becomes the voiced G.
So why does all of this throat vibration matter for our vowels? Here's the golden rule of vowel length. Are you ready?
Lay it on, Amanda.
In English, a vowel is always spoken slightly longer and slower when it's followed by a voiced consonant, and that exact same vowel is chopped short and spoken quickly when it's followed by an unvoiced consonant.
I'll repeat that because it's the master key for today's episode. Voiced consonants stretch the vowel out. Unvoiced consonants cut the vowel short.
Let's prove it with some examples. Let's take the A vowel sound, like in the word cat. First, we'll put an unvoiced consonant at the end, the letter K. The word is back. B-A-C-K.
Back.
Now, let's keep the exact same vowel, but change the ending to a voiced consonant, the letter G. The word is bag. B-A-G.
Bag. Listen to how much longer that A sound just became. Bag. I'm stretching it out. Back. Bag. Back. Bag.
It's a massive difference. Let's do another pair.
Let's use the E sound. First, the unvoiced T. The word is seat. S-E-A-T. Please take a seat.
The vowels cut short. Seat. Now let's change it to the voiced D. The word is seed. S-E-E-D. Plant a seed.
Seed. Seat. Seed. Seat.
This is exactly how we solved the mystery from the beginning of the episode. How do we tell the difference between bat and bad if we don't pronounce the final letters?
We stretch the vowel. Bat has an unvoiced T, so the vowel's fast. Bat. Bad has a voiced D, so the vowel's long. Bad. Even if I whisper the end of the word, you know I'm saying bad because you heard the length of the A.
This completely transforms how you should think about pronunciation. Most learners obsess over articulating the final consonants perfectly. They spit and sputter, trying to make the D and the T super clear.
But native speakers find that really distracting. If you overpronounce the final consonants, you interrupt the rhythm of the river. We don't want to hear the hard consonants. We want to hear the music of the vowels swelling and shrinking.
Let's practice some more pairs so our listeners can really train their ears to hear this micro music. Let's look at the words safe and save.
Safe ends in an unvoiced F. The vowel is short. Safe. Save ends in a voiced V. The vowel is stretched. Save. I feel safe. I want to save money.
What about the words half and have? This is a great one because the spelling's tricky, but the phonetic rule's identical. Half ends in the unvoiced F sound. Short vowel, half.
Have ends in the voiced V sound. Long vowel, have. Give me half. I have it. Half, have.
Let's look at the word eyes, like the eyes on your face, versus the word ice, like the frozen water.
Ice ends with an unvoiced S sound, short vowel, ice. Eyes ends with a voiced Z sound, long vowel, eyes. I want some ice. Look at my eyes.
If you don't use the correct vowel length here, you're going to cause a lot of confusion. If you ask a waiter for some eyes in your drink, he's going to look at you like you're a crazy person.
And the crazy thing's that a learner might think they're pronouncing the word perfectly. They might say, but Ben and Anna, I said an S sound for ice and a Z sound for eyes. Why didn't they understand me?
And the harsh truth's that the native speaker didn't even notice your S or your Z. They heard a long vowel, so their brain automatically registered the word eyes. Your vowel length betrayed your consonants.
The vowel length is the primary signal. The consonant is just the secondary signal. If the signals don't match, the native speaker's brain will almost always trust the vowel length over the consonant.
Let's look at another classic minimal pair, peace and peas. World peace versus a bowl of green peas.
Peace ends with an unvoiced S sound, short vowel, peace. Peas ends with a voiced Z sound, long vowel, peas. We want peace. Eat your peas.
Piss.
That's 'cause the English mouth's programmed for this efficiency. It actually takes more physical energy to keep your vocal cords vibrating for a voiced consonant, so we naturally stretch the vowel right before it to build up the momentum.
It's all about physics and airflow. Unvoiced consonants stop the air quickly. Voiced consonants let the engine keep humming.
Let's talk about how this rule applies to plural words.
because this is another area where learners get completely tripped up.
Oh, the plural S. This is such a common mistake. Most learners are taught that you just slap an S sound onto the end of a word to make it plural. One cat, two cats. One dog, two dogs.
But the plural S isn't always an S sound. Sometimes it's a Z sound, and the rule for which one to use depends entirely on what we're talking about today, voiced versus unvoiced endings.
If a word ends in an unvoiced consonant, like the T in cat, then the plural sound is an unvoiced S, cats. The whole ending of the word is unvoiced. Short vowel, sharp T, sharp S, cats.
But if a word ends in a voiced consonant, like the G in dog, you can't easily jump from a voiced G to an unvoiced S. Your throat doesn't want to turn off that quickly. So the S automatically turns into a voiced Z sound, dogs.
And 'cause that final G and Z are voiced, the vowel in the middle of the word has to stretch. Dog. Dogs. Compare that to the short, sharp sound of cats. Cats. Dogs.
Let's do another one. Cup ends in an unvoiced P, so the plural is an unvoiced S, and the vowel is short, cups.
Now, let's take the word pen. The N sound is voiced. Your throat vibrates on an N. So the plural has to be a Z sound, and the vowel stretches. Pens.
Cups, pens, books, bags, hats, shoes. You can hear the rhythm bouncing back and forth between short and long, unvoiced and voiced.
When you start applying this vowel length rule, your English instantly stops sounding choppy. That choppiness that learners hate, that robotic feeling we talked about in episode 1, it often comes from chopping all your vowels to the exact same short length.
Yes, a lot of languages don't have this dynamic vowel stretching. Spanish, for example, has very crisp, consistent vowel lengths. So when a Spanish speaker learns English, they apply that crispness to every word.
They say back and bag with the exact same short A sound. And because the vowels don't breathe and stretch, the rhythm sounds rigid. It sounds like a machine gun instead of a flowing river.
To fix this, you've got to give yourself permission to be dramatic with your vowels. When you see a voiced consonant at the end of a word, I want you to treat it like a musical note that you've got to hold for an extra beat.
Road.
Think of the word job. Ends in a voiced B. Don't say job, say jube. I got a new jube.
It might feel slightly ridiculous when you're practicing alone in your room, but I promise you, to a native speaker, it just sounds relaxed and fluent.
Now, I want to add a small layer of complexity to this just so our advanced learners are fully equipped. The rule we're discussing today about voiced consonants stretching vowels happens primarily at the end of a word or the end of a thought group.
That's an important distinction. The stretching is most obvious right before a pause. If the word's buried in the middle of a fast sentence, the stretch won't be quite as dramatic, though it's still there.
Right. If I say, I have a bag of apples, the word bag is in the middle of the flow. It's longer than back, but it's not super exaggerated.
But if I say, look at that heavy bag, and bag is the last word before I pause, that's when the vowel really expands. Look at that heavy bag.
This ties right back into intonation and the power of the pause. You're stretching the vowel to signal to the listener that the thought group's coming to an end. It's a deceleration technique. You're gently pressing the brakes before you hit the stop sign.
That's a brilliant way to visualize it. Short vowels keep you accelerating. Long vowels help you decelerate smoothly.
Let's do a little interactive quiz for our listeners. I'm going to say 3 words. I want you at home to listen carefully and decide if I'm using a short vowel or a long, stretched vowel.
This is a great ear training exercise. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, word number 1. Node. N-O-D-E. Node.
Did you hear it at home? Node. It's a long, stretched vowel. That's 'cause it ends in a voiced D sound.
Note. N-O-T-E. Note.
Note.
Cap. C-A-P. Cap.
Unvoiced P. Cap.
And let's turn that last one into a voiced ending. Cab. C-A-B. Cab.
Cab. You're riding in a cab. You wear a cap on your head.
Once you tune your ear to this frequency, you'll start hearing it everywhere. You'll watch a movie and realize the actors are constantly stretching and shrinking their vowels to create the melody of the scene.
It's the hidden code of English pronunciation, and it's so much more important than trying to force your tongue to make the perfect R sound or TH sound.
I completely agree. A slight mispronunciation of a TH sound might give you a mild accent, but it rarely destroys comprehension. But messing up your vowel length can completely change the vocabulary word the listener hears.
It's the difference between asking someone for a piece of advice and asking someone for a piece of advice.
Exactly. Piece, unvoiced S, short vowel. Peas, voiced Z, long vowel. You want a piece of cake, you don't want a piece of cake.
That brings us to our mission for episode 7. We want you to start actively playing with this elastic band in your mouth. We want you to practice stretching and shrinking.
Your homework for this week is to create your own list of minimal pairs. A minimal pair is a set of 2 words that are identical except for one sound, in this case, the final consonant.
We gave you some great ones today. Bat and bad, back and bag, half and have, safe and save.
I want you to sit down with a piece of paper and brainstorm at least 5 more pairs of your own. Look for words ending in T and D, P and B, K and G, or S and Z.
Once you've got your list of 5 pairs, I want you to practice reading them out loud. But I want you to exaggerate the rule. When you read the unvoiced word, say it as fast and sharply as you possibly can.
And...
After you've trained your mouth with these exaggerated pairs, I want you to come down to the comments section of this episode. Share your favorite minimal pair from your list.
Tell us which pair felt the strangest in your mouth when you tried to stretch the vowel. Sometimes words we've been saying wrong for years feel very weird when we finally say them right.
We love reading about those aha moments, when the physical mechanics finally click into place and you realize why you've been misunderstood in the past. It's incredibly empowering.
You're doing phenomenal work. You've survived the deep dive into the micro music of vowels. Your rhythm's getting more sophisticated by the minute.
In our next episode, episode 8, we're going to tackle one of the most physically intimidating aspects of the English language. We're going to talk about consonant clusters.
Oh yes, what happens when English decides to throw 3 or 4 heavy consonants right next to each other without any vowels to break them up? Words like strengths or texts.
It feels like a traffic jam in your mouth, but we're going to show you the native speaker shortcuts for breaking up that traffic and keeping the river flowing smoothly.
It's going to be a lifesaver for your pronunciation confidence. You definitely don't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on the stretch. Turn your vocal cords on for those voiced endings and let the vowels breathe.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you learned something new about vowel length today, please like and subscribe. Keep stretching those vowels. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 8 of Module 2 of The Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're getting so close to the end of Module 2, and the progress we're seeing in the community is just blowing us away. You're all doing such a fantastic job with this physical shift.
You really are. We've thrown a lot of physical mechanics at you over the last 7 episodes. We've talked about hitting the peaks with sentence stress, sliding into the valleys with the schwa, linking your words like a river with connected speech, and using the melody of intonation.
We also taught you how to use the power of the pause to command a room, how to master contractions to speed up your conversational flow, and in our last episode, we showed you how vowel length signals the meaning of your words. It's been a massive journey.
It has. And today, we're going to tackle what's probably the most physically intimidating obstacle in the entire English language. We're talking about the moments when English decides to cause a massive traffic jam in your mouth. Today's topic is consonant clusters.
Before we dive into navigating these mouth traffic jams, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're finding this 50-episode course helpful and you're enjoying the blueprint we're building together, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It really is the best way to support the show and help us reach more English learners who are struggling with their pronunciation and their confidence. Thanks for being here with us.
Now, Ben, let's start by defining exactly what a consonant cluster is, because the name sounds a little bit technical.
It's actually a very simple concept. A consonant cluster is just a group of 2, 3, or even 4 consonant sounds right next to each other in a word, with absolutely 0 vowel sounds between them.
Right. Think of the letters of the alphabet. You've got your vowels, which are A, E, I, O, and U, and you've got your consonants, which are all the other letters, B, C, D, F, G, and so on.
In a perfect, easy-to-pronounce language, every consonant would be followed by a nice, open vowel. Consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. Ba, da, ma, ta. It's a very steady, easy rhythm.
Many languages actually follow that exact pattern. Languages like Japanese, Spanish, Portuguese, or Italian have very strict rules about how consonants and vowels can sit next to each other. They really don't like putting a bunch of heavy consonants in a row.
But English doesn't care about those rules. English loves to smash consonants together. We'll take a word like splash and throw an S, a P, and an L right at the front. Splash. 3 consonants, no breathing room.
Or we'll take a word like strengths, which is an absolute nightmare for learners. You've got an S, a T, and an R at the beginning, then a vowel, then an N, a G, a T, an H, and an S at the end. That's a 5-consonant cluster at the end if you look at the spelling, though phonetically it's a bit shorter. It still feels like a massive roadblock.
And this is exactly why consonant clusters are so difficult for non-native speakers. Your mouth simply hasn't been trained to transition from one heavy consonant position to another without taking a break and using a vowel.
Your brain panics when it sees all those consonants. And when your brain panics, it usually resorts to one of two very common mistakes. Let's talk about the first mistake, which is vowel insertion.
Oh, the phantom vowel. This is incredibly common. When a learner sees a cluster of consonants, their mouth physically rebels. To make the word easier to say, they secretly insert a tiny extra vowel, usually a schwa or an e sound, right in the middle of the consonants.
For example, a lot of native Spanish speakers have trouble with clusters that start with an S. So instead of saying stop, they add a vowel to the front and say stop. Instead of school, they say school. Instead of street, they say street.
Speakers of other languages might insert the vowel between the consonants. Instead of saying blue, B-L-U-E, they might say baloo. They add a little sound between the B and the L to give their tongue a rest.
Or think about a word like film, F-I-L-M. The L and the M are right next to each other. A lot of learners will say fill-um. They turn a one-syllable word into a two-syllable word.
Now, why is this a problem? If the listener can still understand the word, why does it matter if you add a tiny extra vowel?
It matters because it completely destroys the rhythm of fluency we built in episode 1. Remember, English is a stress-timed language. We have a very specific number of syllables in a sentence, and we hit the peaks and rush through the valleys.
When you start adding extra syllables to your words by inserting phantom vowels, you're adding extra beats to the song. The rhythm gets incredibly clunky and uneven. You sound like a skipping record. It immediately marks your speech as unnatural.
Exactly. You've got to be ruthless with your vowels. If there isn't a vowel written there, and there isn't a vowel in the phonetic transcription, you aren't allowed to make one. You've got to force your tongue to slide directly from the first consonant to the second.
And that brings us to the second major mistake learners make with consonant clusters. If they don't insert a vowel, they usually do the exact opposite. They just delete a consonant entirely.
This is what we call consonant deletion. The learner looks at a word like desk, D-E-S-K, and they realize the S and the K are too hard to say together, so they just drop the K. They say des.
Or they look at a word like fact, F-A-C-T. They drop the T and just say fac. It's a fac.
Now, we told you in episode 3 that native speakers sometimes drop the T or the D in fast-connected speech. We drop the T in next door, so it sounds like next door. But we only do that in very specific situations when the next word starts with a heavy consonant.
Learners tend to delete consonants everywhere, even at the end of a sentence. If you say, I sit at my best, the native speaker's brain has to pause and figure out what word you meant. It breaks comprehension.
So we can't add extra vowels and we can't delete the consonants. We have to learn how to physically navigate the traffic jam. Let's start with initial clusters. These are the clusters at the very beginning of a word.
The most common and most troublesome initial clusters usually involve the letter S. Words like stop, slow, smart, snake, space, stand.
The trick to mastering these S clusters is to treat the S like a runway. You don't try to say the whole cluster at once. You start the S sound early, and you hold it for a second to let your mouth prepare for the next consonant.
That's a great technique. Make a long, hissy snake sound. S. While you're making that sound, your mouth is already moving into position for the P or the T or the M. Stop. Smart.
You're gliding into the word instead of crashing into it. Let's practice that. Try the word screen. S-C-R-E-E-N. That's 3 consonants, S, K, and R.
Screen. 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 Notice how I don't add an E at the beginning. I don't say screen. I just start with the pure air of the S sound.
What about words that start with a stop consonant and a liquid, like P and L in play, or B and R in bring?
For these, you've got to snap the 2 sounds together instantly. You can't leave any gap. Your tongue has to be in position for the L or the R before you even open your lips for the P or the B.
Blue.
Blue. It's not baloo. The B and L are a single explosive event. Blue. Same thing with play. Get the tongue ready for the L, close the lips for the P, and pop them both at once. Play. Not play. Play.
It takes a lot of physical practice in front of a mirror. You've got to retrain the muscles in your jaw and your tongue to coordinate those simultaneous movements.
But the real boss battle, the part of English that makes learners want to pull their hair out, isn't the initial clusters. It's the final clusters, the consonants stacked at the end of a word.
Oh, absolutely. Final consonant clusters are brutal. And the biggest culprit, the number 1 source of frustration, is the regular past tense ending, the ED ending.
We have to spend some serious time on this, because getting the ED ending right's a massive milestone for your fluency.
Most learners see the ED at the end of a verb, like in the word walked, W-A-L-K-E-D, and they assume that ED forms a new syllable. They pronounce it walked, 2 syllables.
They do the same thing with past, pass-ed, or washed, wash-ed. They're inserting that phantom vowel again to break up the consonants.
But here's the absolute ironclad rule for the regular past tense in English. 90% of the time, that letter E is completely silent. It doesn't exist phonetically. The past tense ending is just a single consonant sound added directly onto the end of the base verb.
And the sound you add depends entirely on what we learned in our last episode, voiced versus unvoiced consonants.
Let's break it down. Rule number 1. If the base verb ends in an unvoiced consonant sound, like P, K, F, S, or SH, you add an unvoiced T sound to make it past tense.
Let's look at the word walk. It ends in an unvoiced K sound, walk. To make it past tense, we don't add ED, we just add a T, walked.
Listen to that cluster. A K and a T smashed together. Kt. Walked. I walked to the store.
Think of the word wash. Ends in an unvoiced SH sound. Add a T. Washed. I washed the car.
How about the word stop? Ends in an unvoiced P. Add a T. Stopped. We stopped the game.
It's just a pure collision of air. P and T stopped. If you say stopped, you're ruining the rhythm.
Okay, rule number 2. If the base verb ends in a voiced consonant sound, like B, G, V, Z, M, N, L, R, or any vowel sound, you add a voiced D sound to make it past tense.
Let's take the word clean. It ends in a voiced N sound. Clean. To make it past tense, we just add a D. Cleaned.
Listen to that cluster, an N and a D. Cleaned. I cleaned the house.
How about the word call? Ends in a voiced L sound. Add a D. Called. I called my mom.
What about the word love? Ends in a voiced V sound. Add a D. Loved. I loved that movie.
Notice how we're stretching the vowel in those words, just like we practiced in episode 7, because they end in a voiced D. Clean becomes cleaned. The vowel gets longer.
So, for most verbs, you're just adding a T or a D, creating a consonant cluster at the end of the word. But there's one exception. Rule number 3.
This is the only time the ed ending actually creates a new syllable. If the base verb already ends in a T or D sound, you can't physically add another T or D on top of it. Your mouth can't do it.
Right. You can't say want or need. It's impossible. So only in this specific case we do pronounce the extra syllable. We add an ID sound.
Want becomes wanted. Need becomes needed. Start becomes started. Decide becomes decided.
But that's only for verbs ending in T or D. For everything else, you've got to crush those consonants together. Walked, washed, called, loved.
Let's talk about a word that perfectly illustrates this nightmare. The word asked. A-S-K-E-D.
Asked is famous. It's the ultimate tongue twister for learners. Let's look at the phonetics. The base word is ask. It ends in an S and a K, both unvoiced.
So, to make it past tense, we follow rule number 1 and add an unvoiced T. That means the word asked ends in 3 unvoiced consonants in a row. S, K, T. Asked.
Asked. I asked him a question.
So how do native speakers survive this? How do we say a word like asked in the middle of a fast conversation without breaking our teeth?
We cheat. We use the master key we gave you in episode 3. We use connected speech.
This is the absolute most important strategy for surviving final consonant clusters. You never try to say a word like asked in isolation. You always link the final consonant of the cluster to the vowel of the next word.
I asked a question.
But if you flow like a river, you take the T from the end of asked and you push it forward onto the word
So it becomes, I asked a question. I asked a question.
Suddenly, the cluster's broken up. You've got SK at the end of the first word, and the T has moved to start the next word. The traffic jam is cleared. I ask to question.
Let's do another one. I walked away. Don't try to say walked by itself. Take the T from walked and push it on to away. I walked away. I walked away.
I called him. Now remember from episode 6, in fast speech, we often drop the H in him. So him just sounds like im.
We take the D from called and push it on to the I. I called him. I called him. It's completely effortless.
If you have a final consonant cluster, your number 1 goal should be to find a vowel in the next word to link it to. It's an escape hatch for your tongue.
But what if the next word starts with a consonant? What if I say, I walked down the street? Walked ends with a T, down starts with a D. 2 heavy consonants colliding.
Then we use our elision rule from episode 3. If the cluster is too heavy and it crashes into another consonant, we just delete the last consonant of the cluster. We drop the T.
I walked down the street. We don't say walked down, we just say walk down. The native speaker knows it's past tense from the context of the story. I walked down the street.
This is why connected speech is so vital. It's not just about sounding fast, it's a physical survival mechanism for navigating clusters. If you don't link or delete, your mouth will simply freeze up.
Let's look at another type of final cluster that causes a lot of grief. Plurals and third-person verbs that end in an S or Z sound after a cluster.
Words like months, M-O-N-T-H-S. You've got an N, a T-H, and an S. Months.
Or a word like clothes, C-L-O-T-H-E-S. You've got a TH and a Z sound, clothes.
How do native speakers handle these? Let's be honest, we usually cheat on these too. For a word like months, a lot of native speakers don't even bother with the TH sound. We just say months. 3 months ago.
It's true. We drop the TH completely. And for clothes, we almost never say clothes. We just pronounce it exactly like the word close, as in close the door. I need to wash my clothes.
Words like texts, T-E-X-T-S. That's a K, an S, a T, and an S. 4 consonants. K-S-T-S. Texts.
In fast speech, native speakers will often drop the T and just say Texas. I sent him 3 texts. Or we'll just reduce it to text. I got his text.
The point we're making here is that you shouldn't torture yourself trying to achieve perfect robotic articulation of every single letter in a 4-consonant cluster. Even the natives don't do it.
We want you to focus on the flow. Use connected speech to push the final consonant onto the next vowel. If that's not possible, use elision to drop the heaviest consonant and keep the river moving.
Don't add phantom vowels, and don't delete consonants randomly. Use the systematic shortcuts we're teaching you.
That brings us to our mission for episode 8. We want you to actively practice navigating these mouth traffic jams.
Your homework for this week is the consonant collision drill. I want you to make a list of 5 English words that end in a difficult consonant cluster. Choose words that you personally struggle with.
It could be asked, worked, strengths, texts, desks, tasks. Whatever words make your tongue trip up.
Next, I want you to write a short sentence for each word. But here's the catch. The word immediately following your difficult cluster word must begin with a vowel.
For example, if your word is tasks, your sentence could be, I finished my tasks early. Tasks ends in S-K-S. Early begins with an E.
But don't pause between the words. I want you to deliberately take the final consonant of the cluster and attach it to the vowel of the next word.
I finished my task sincerely. Task sincerely. Feel how pushing that final S onto the E breaks up the cluster and saves your tongue from working too hard.
Do this for all 5 of your sentences. Exaggerate the link. Record yourself doing it and listen to how fluid and natural it sounds compared to saying the words in isolation.
After you've mastered your list, come down to the comments section, share one of your sentences with us, tell us what the difficult cluster was, and show us how you linked it to the next word.
I asked the question. We want to see you actively managing the traffic in your mouth.
It's gonna feel like a serious mouth workout at first. Your facial muscles might actually get a little bit tired. That's a good sign. It means you're building new physical habits.
You're doing absolutely brilliant work. You're confronting the hardest mechanical parts of English, and you're learning the exact shortcuts we use to survive them.
In our next episode, episode 9, we're going to put everything we've learned in Module 2 to the ultimate test. We're going to do a deep dive into mimicry and shadowing.
We've mentioned shadowing several times throughout the course, But in the next episode, we're giving you the exact step-by-step framework for how to shadow a native speaker to perfect your rhythm, your stress, and your connected speech.
It's the ultimate practice routine for everything we've covered in the physical shift. It's going to be a highly practical, hands-on masterclass.
You won't want to miss it as we gear up for the finale of Module 2. But for today, focus on those clusters. Don't add vowels. Keep the river flowing. Link the final sounds to the next vowel.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you found our tips on consonant clusters helpful today, please be sure to like and subscribe. Keep pushing through those traffic jams. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to episode 9 of Module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everybody. We've officially reached the penultimate episode of this module. It's hard to believe we're already at episode 9.
It really is flying by. Over the past 8 episodes, we've completely deconstructed the physical mechanics of the English language. We've taken the machine apart piece by piece. We've looked at sentence stress, the schwa, connected speech, intonation, pausing, contractions, vowel length, and consonant clusters.
We've basically spent the last few weeks showing you all the individual car parts laying on the garage floor. But today, we're putting the engine together, turning the key, and driving the car. Today, we're talking about mimicry and shadowing.
If you've been following along with the blueprint, you know we've mentioned shadowing a few times. We've teased it as the ultimate practice technique. Today, we're finally giving you the exact step-by-step framework for how to do it correctly.
Before we dive into the ultimate pronunciation workout, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're enjoying this 50-episode journey and finding value in these lessons, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the absolute best way to support us and help this community grow. We want to reach as many learners as possible who are stuck on the intermediate plateau. Thanks so much for being here.
Now, Ben, let's start with a definition. What exactly is shadowing? Because a lot of students confuse it with just simply repeating after a teacher.
That's a great distinction to make. Repeating is what you do in a traditional classroom. The teacher says a phrase, the teacher pauses, and then the class repeats the phrase into the silence.
Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you?
Exactly. That's repeating. Shadowing is entirely different. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and you speak along with them at the exact same time, or just a fraction of a second behind them. You don't wait for them to finish. You overlap your voice with their voice.
It's exactly like singing along to your favorite song on the radio. When you're driving in your car and a great song comes on, you don't wait for the singer to finish the chorus so you can sing it back. You sing it with them. You match their pitch, their rhythm, their breath, and their emotion in real time.
That's the perfect analogy. And just like singing along to a song, shadowing forces you to abandon your analytical brain. You don't have time to think about grammar rules or translation when you're trying to keep up with a native speaker speaking at full speed.
That's the magic of it. It completely bypasses the translation trap we spent all of Module 1 talking about. It forces you out of your head and into your mouth. It builds pure physical muscle memory.
It trains your jaw, your lips, your tongue, and your vocal cords to move in the specific physical patterns of English. Your mouth gets used to the gymnastics of connected speech and consonant clusters, without your brain having to micromanage every single movement.
But you can't just turn on a 2-hour movie, press play, and start talking over the actors. That's gonna lead to complete frustration. Shadowing is a highly structured exercise. It requires focus and a specific methodology.
Right, so we've developed a 6-step framework for shadowing. If you follow these 6 steps, you're going to see a massive transformation in your accent, your flow, and your speaking confidence.
Step 1 is selection. You have to choose the right audio material. This is where a lot of people fail before they even start. You don't want to shadow Shakespeare. You don't want to shadow a highly dramatic, emotional movie scene where the actors are screaming or crying.
And you also don't want to shadow the evening news. News anchors use a very specific, artificial broadcasting rhythm that nobody actually uses in real life. It sounds incredibly unnatural if you try to order a coffee using a news anchor voice.
You want conversational reality. You want podcasts, YouTube vlogs, or talk show interviews. You want 2 people just casually chatting. And most importantly, the audio must come with an accurate transcript or accurate subtitles.
The length of the audio is also crucial. Don't try to shadow a 10-minute video. You'll exhaust yourself. You want to select a clip that's only 30 to 60 seconds long. Just a few paragraphs of text.
Once you've found your 30-second clip of natural conversational English, you move to Step 2. Step 2 is blind listening.
Notice we didn't say reading. During Step 2, you completely ignore the transcript. Close your eyes, hit play on the 30-second clip, and just listen to it 3 or 4 times in a row.
Your goal here isn't to understand every single vocabulary word. Your goal is to listen to the music. You're listening for the beat of the drum and the melody of the violin.
You're trying to map the peaks and the valleys in your head. Where does the speaker's voice go up? Where do they rush and mumble? Where do they pause? Just let the rhythm wash over you without any visual distractions.
Once you've absorbed the music, you're ready for Step 3. Step 3 is the blueprint markup. This is where you finally look at the text and you apply everything we've taught you in Module 2.
You print out the transcript of your 30-second clip on a physical piece of paper. Get a red pen. First, listen to the audio again and underline the content words. Which words are getting hit the hardest? Underline the peaks.
Then look for the function words, the small, unimportant grammar words. Circle them. Remind your brain that those circled words are going to be reduced to a lazy schwa sound.
Next, draw your connected speech bridges. When a word ends in a consonant and the next word starts with a vowel, draw a little linking arrow between them. Remind your eyes that there's no space bar there.
Look for the tricky consonant clusters we talked about in Episode 8. If you see a word like asked or texts, cross out the heavy consonants that the native speaker drops. If they say, I asked a question, physically cross out the K and the E and the D and draw a line to the T. Finally, draw vertical lines wherever the speaker takes a breath or uses a dramatic pause. You're literally creating a musical score for your mouth. You're translating standard written English into a phonetic blueprint. This markup phase is so incredibly powerful because it forces you to acknowledge the massive difference between how English looks on a page and how it actually sounds in the real world. You're visually confronting the spelling illusion.
Exactly. And once your script is fully marked up with underlines, circles, arrows, and breath marks, you move to Step 4. Step 4 is mute mimicry.
Some people call this silent shadowing. This where you play the audio clip and you follow along with your marked up transcript, but you don't make any sound with your vocal cords.
You just mouth the words. You move your lips,
your jaw, and your tongue in perfect synchronization with the native speaker, but you stay completely silent.
It feels a little bit silly, like you're lip-syncing in a music video, but there's a deep neurological reason for doing this. It allows you to focus 100% of your cognitive energy on the physical shape of your mouth without the distraction of hearing your own voice.
When you speak out loud, your brain is simultaneously trying to control your mouth and listen to the sound you're producing. It's splitting its attention. By staying silent, you give your mouth a chance to figure out the complex physical transitions.
You can focus on pushing your lips forward for the W sounds, bringing your teeth to your bottom lip for the V sounds, and dropping your jaw completely for the lazy schwa.
We recommend doing the mute mimicry step at least 3 or 4 times. Get comfortable with the choreography of the scene. Make sure your tongue knows exactly where it needs to go during those fast, connected speech rivers.
And that brings us to the main event, Step 5, Active Vocal Shadowing. You've got your marked up script, you've warmed up your mouth, and now it's time to turn your vocal cords on.
You hit play on the audio, and you speak out loud along with the native speaker. You don't wait for them. You ride the wave right alongside them.
The first time you do this, it's going to be a disaster, I promise you. You're going to stumble, you're going to lose your place, you're going to run out of breath, and you're going to feel completely overwhelmed.
That's entirely normal. You're trying to process visual information, audio information, and physical coordination all at the same time at native speed. It's a massive cognitive load.
But you don't stop. If you stumble on a word, you don't pause the track to fix it. You just jump right back into the river wherever the speaker is. You keep flowing forward.
This is where the magic happens. After the 4th or 5th attempt, your brain realizes it can't logically process the information fast enough, so it stops trying. Your analytical brain shuts down, and your physical muscle memory takes over.
You stop reading the letters on the page and you start feeling the rhythm in your chest. You start naturally hitting the peaks and mumbling through the valleys because it's physically the only way to keep up with the audio.
You're suddenly using connected speech, not because it's a grammar rule, but because it's a biological necessity. You're taking the shortcuts because you have to.
When you hit that flow state, it feels incredible. It's like you're surfing. You're just riding the momentum of the native speaker's voice.
And you have to pay attention to the emotion, too. Remember episode 4, Intonation for Intent. Don't just match their speed, match their attitude. If the speaker sounds excited, you need to jump your pitch and sound excited.
You have to do the fall rise scoop too. You're an actor learning a role. You have to embody the personality of the speaker.
Doing this breaks you out of that flat, polite, robotic tone that so many learners are trapped in. It forces you to explore the full dynamic range of your vocal cords.
You should loop this 30-second active shadowing exercise 10, 15, or even 20 times. You do it until it feels effortless, until you don't even need to look at the paper anymore because your mouth just knows the dance by heart.
Which leads us to the final step, Step 6, the reality check, recording and comparing.
Everybody hates this step, but it's arguably the most important one. Once you feel completely confident shadowing the track, you need to grab your phone and open your voice memo app.
You play the native speaker's audio through your headphones so only you can hear it. Then you shadow the track while recording your own voice on your phone.
So the recording is just going to be your voice, speaking the 30-second monologue matching the native speaker's pacing in your head.
Then you take your headphones off and you listen to the recording. This is a very vulnerable moment. Because we hear our own voices through bone conduction in our skulls, our voices always sound deeper and more resonant to ourselves than they do to the rest of the world.
When you hear the recording, you're hearing what everyone else hears, and usually the first thing you'll notice is that you aren't nearly as dramatic as you thought you were.
You might think you're hitting those peaks and jumping your pitch, but on the recording, it still sounds a bit flat. You might think you're destroying those schwas, but on the recording, you can clearly hear yourself pronouncing every single letter.
The recording doesn't lie. It highlights the exact spots where your native language rhythm is still overpowering the English rhythm.
Listen to your recording and compare it directly to the original track. Did you pause where they paused? Did you link where they linked? Did you drop the heavy T where they dropped the heavy T?
Identify your weak spots. Make some new marks on your script with a different colored pen, and then do the whole process again. Shadow, record, compare.
It's an iterative process. It's exactly how athletes train. They record their golf swing, they watch the tape, they adjust their grip, and they swing again. You're an athlete training your mouth muscles.
I want to share a quick story about a student of mine named Elena. Elena had been living in London for 5 years. Her grammar was flawless, her vocabulary was immense, but she still felt like she couldn't connect with her colleagues at work.
She felt like an outsider?
Exactly. She said people were always asking her to repeat herself, or they just wouldn't engage in deep conversations with her. I listened to her speak, and the problem was entirely rhythmic. She was a robot. She put equal stress on every single syllable.
So you put her on a shadowing regimen.
I did. I made her find 30-second clips of British talk shows. I made her do the markup, the mute mimicry, the active shadowing, and the recording, every single day for 20 minutes.
How long did it take for her to see a difference?
Within 2 weeks, she told me her jaw physically hurt after practicing. That's how much she was changing her muscle movements. And within a month, the results were staggering.
The rhythm clicked.
It absolutely clicked. She stopped trying to pronounce the function words. She started linking her consonants to her vowels. Her colleagues at work actually started asking her if she had hired a voice coach because suddenly she sounded so relaxed and natural.
Shadowing works because it attacks the root of the problem. It fixes the physical habits that you've been relying on for decades.
But it requires consistency. You can't just shadow one video on a Sunday afternoon and expect your accent to change permanently. You need to do it daily. 10 or 15 minutes a day is infinitely better than 2 hours once a week.
You need to keep telling your mouth that this is the new normal. Consistency is what rewires the neural pathways in your brain.
I also want to remind our listeners that shadowing is not about losing your native accent completely. We've said this before, but it bears repeating. Having an accent is beautiful. It tells the story of who you are and where you come from.
We aren't trying to erase your identity. We're trying to give you the rhythm and the flow of English so that your accent never gets in the way of your message. We want effortless communication.
Shadowing gives you the clarity of a native speaker without necessarily erasing the unique flavor of your own voice.
All right, we've laid out the entire 6-step framework: selection, blind listening, the blueprint markup, mute mimicry, active shadowing, and recording.
Which brings us to your mission for episode 9. This is the big one, folks. This is where you put it all together.
Your homework for this week is to complete one full cycle of the shadowing framework. I want you to go to YouTube and find a conversational clip, just 30 seconds long.
The blind listen. Print the transcript. Mark up the peaks, the valleys, the links, and the pauses. Spend some serious time on the markup. Make it look like a messy mathematical formula.
Then do your mute mimicry. Get comfortable with the physical transitions, and then start your active vocal shadowing. Loop it until you catch the wave.
Finally, do the hard part. Record yourself shadowing the track, listen back to it, and be honest with yourself about where you need to improve.
Once you've completed the entire cycle, we want you to come down into the comments section. We don't want you to post the audio recording, don't worry, but we do want you to tell us about the experience.
Tell us which step was the hardest for you. Was it marking the connected speech? Was it feeling silly during the mute mimicry? Or was it the shock of hearing your own recorded voice?
Share your process with the community. We're all in this gym together, lifting these phonetic weights.
You're doing phenomenal work. You now possess the ultimate tool for pronunciation mastery. If you practice shadowing consistently, your English will completely transform.
In our next episode, episode 10, we're wrapping up Module 2. We're going to do a massive review of the entire Rhythm of Fluency.
We're going to tie all these concepts together and talk about what it truly means to find your flow state in English. We'll also give you some long-term strategies for maintaining these physical habits.
It's going to be a fantastic conclusion to the physical shift. You definitely won't want to miss it as we prepare to transition into Module 3.
But for today, get out there and find your audio clip. Grab your red pen, mark up those schwas, and start writing the river.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Emma. If you're ready to start shadowing and transforming your rhythm, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let's master the music together. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to episode 10 of Module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We made it! This is the grand finale of our second module, and I honestly have goosebumps thinking about how far we've come over the last 9 episodes.
It feels like a massive accomplishment. We're now 20 episodes into our 50-episode journey. You've officially completed the mental shift in Module 1, and today you're graduating from the physical shift here in Module 2.
We called this module Mastering the Music, and the transformation we're seeing in the community is absolutely incredible. You guys aren't just reciting vocabulary anymore, you're finally playing the instrument.
Before we do our grand review and talk about what it truly means to find your flow state, we've got one last favor to ask for this module. If you've survived this deep dive into the physical mechanics of English and you're proud of your progress, please hit the like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
Your support throughout this module has been phenomenal. Every time you like, subscribe, and leave a comment, you help the algorithm push this blueprint to another learner who might be feeling totally stuck in Robotic. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Now, Anna, today's episode is called Summary, Finding Your Flow. We're going to tie all the individual pieces of the engine together. We spent the last 9 episodes pulling the car apart, looking at every single bolt and wire. Today, we're putting the hood down and hitting the highway.
And to appreciate the highway, we have to look in the rearview mirror for a few minutes. We need to review exactly what you've accomplished, because when you look at the physical mechanics all laid out at once, it's actually staggering how much your mouth has learned to do.
Let's go all the way back to episode 1. That's where we broke the very first illusion. We shattered the idea that English is a steady, flat, syllable-timed language. We introduced you to the heartbeat of the language, which is sentence stress.
We taught you that English is a stress-timed language. It's a jazz song, not a military march. We talked about the peaks and the valleys. You learned that you have to take your content words, your nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and hit them hard. You make them longer, louder, and higher in pitch.
And to make those peaks stand out,
you had to learn how to fall into the valleys. That led us directly into episode 2, which was honestly a huge paradigm shift for a lot of our listeners. We uncovered the schwa secret.
The lazy zombie sound. We told you that to be fluent, you actually have to be lazy. You have to take all those unimportant function words, the prepositions, the articles, the auxiliary verbs, and you have to crush the vowels out of them.
You learned that A, E, I, O, and U can all make the exact same lazy sound. You learned that the spelling is an illusion and that replacing full vowels with the schwa is the ultimate efficiency hack. It saves your breath for the words that actually matter.
Once we had our peaks and valleys established, we had to get them moving. So in episode 3, we tackled connected speech, or liaison. We destroyed the spacebar. We taught you that the robot speaks word by word, but the river flows continuously.
We went through the rules of the river. We talked about pushing consonants forward into vowels, building invisible W and Y bridges between vowels, dropping heavy T and D sounds entirely, and blending sounds together so that meet you becomes meet you. You learned how to speak on one continuous exhale.
But a river without emotion is just a machine. So in episode 4, we added the color back in with intonation for intent. We talked about the melody of the violin.
You learned how to land the airplane with falling intonation for facts and commands. You learned how to avoid the deadly uptalk trap that destroys your professional confidence. You learned how to use rising intonation as a social invitation. And you mastered the tricky fall-rise scoop to express politeness and sarcasm.
You realize that pitch isn't just about sounding pretty, it's your conversational body language. It tells the listener exactly how you feel about the words you're saying.
And then, right when you thought you had to just keep flowing and flowing forever, we completely flipped the script in episode 5. We talked about the power of the pause.
We busted the speed myth. We told you that talking as fast as humanly possible isn't fluency, it's panic. We taught you how to chunk your language into thought groups. We showed you how to use verbal commas and periods to build the banks of your river so the water doesn't flood everywhere.
More importantly, we taught you how to replace your nervous filler words with silent pauses. We showed you how sitting in silence for 2 seconds can make you look like the most confident, authoritative person in the room.
Moving into the second half of the module, Episode 6 was all about contraction mastery. We took away the guilt you felt from your traditional English classes and told you that informal contractions aren't slang, they're standard spoken English.
You learned how to aggressively smash pronouns and verbs together. You swallowed your T sounds in negative contractions like didn't and haven't, and you fully embraced words like gonna, wanna, and have to keep your conversational momentum moving at native speed.
In Episode 7, we got into the absolute micro details with vowel length and meaning. We solved the mystery of how native speakers can understand each other even when we drop our final consonants.
You learned that voiced consonants like D and Z stretch the vowel out, making it long and musical. And unvoiced consonants like T and S cut the vowel short. You learned that your vowel length is the primary signal for meaning, and the consonant is just secondary.
Then we faced the ultimate boss battle in Episode 8, consonant clusters. We looked at those terrifying mouth traffic jams where 3 or 4 consonants crash together with no vowels to save you.
We told you not to insert phantom vowels and not to delete consonants randomly. We showed you how to use connected speech to push the final consonant onto the next word,
and how to use the regular past tense ed ending without ruining your rhythm.
And finally, in episode 9, we gave you the key to practicing all of this. We introduced the ultimate physical workout, mimicry and shadowing.
We are so passionate about shadowing, and we know our students are too. Growing up in Colorado, I never really thought about my own rhythm until I started teaching. You just speak naturally.
It's exactly the same for me in California. We've got our own relaxed cadence on the West Coast, but it's all built on the exact same fundamental music. Shadowing is the only way for a non-native speaker to download that natural, regional cadence directly into their nervous system.
We gave you the 6-step framework: selection, blind listening, the blueprint markup, mute mimicry, active shadowing, and the brutal reality check of recording yourself. We told you that shadowing forces you out of your analytical brain and builds pure physical muscle memory.
And that massive 9-episode summary brings us exactly to where we are right now. Episode 10, Finding Your Flow.
What does flow actually mean? We use the word a lot. We talk about the river, we talk about fluency, but flow is actually a documented psychological state.
Psychologists describe the flow state as a feeling of completely energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment in the process of an activity. It's when you're so fully immersed in what you're doing that your sense of time disappears and your actions feel completely automatic.
Athletes call it being in the zone. Musicians feel it when they're improvising, and language learners feel it when they finally stop translating.
When you're in a conversational flow state in English, you aren't thinking about grammar rules. You aren't scanning your brain for vocabulary words. You aren't worrying about whether you should use the present perfect or the past simple.
And you certainly aren't thinking about whether your vowel is long or short, or if you should use a schwa. You're just living in the moment, connecting with the human being in front of you, and trusting your mouth to do the heavy lifting.
But here's the paradox of the flow state. You cannot achieve flow by being lazy at the beginning. True, effortless flow is the result of intense, deliberate practice.
It looks like magic from the outside. When someone watches a professional tennis player effortlessly hit a perfect backhand down the line, it looks like they aren't even trying. It looks like pure natural talent.
But what the audience doesn't see are the 10,000 hours that tennis players spent in an empty gym, hitting the exact same backhand against a wall, adjusting their grip by 1 millimeter, recording their swing, and analyzing their footwork.
The exact same logic applies to spoken English. When a native speaker glides through a complex sentence with perfect intonation and connected speech, it looks like magic to a beginner.
But as a blueprint student, you now know that it isn't magic. It's a highly predictable, incredibly efficient system of physical mechanics. And you've spent the last 9 episodes in the gym doing the drills.
You've marked up your transcripts, you've done the mute mimicry, you've recorded yourself messing up the intonation, and you've tried again. You've done the heavy lifting so that your mouth can eventually go on autopilot.
Finding your flow means trusting the training. It means crossing that bridge from the practice room to the real world and having the courage to let go of your perfectionism.
We talked a lot about perfectionism in Module 1, but it rears its ugly head again here in the physical stage. A lot of students get obsessed with pronouncing every single word perfectly, and they sacrifice the rhythm to achieve it.
If you're constantly stopping yourself in the middle of a sentence to correct a tiny pronunciation mistake, you will never find your flow. Flow requires momentum.
If you stumble over a consonant cluster, you have to just keep moving. If you use falling intonation when you meant to use rising intonation, you just keep the river flowing. The native speaker's brain is incredibly forgiving. They're listening to the overall melody, not analyzing every single note.
I want to share a piece of advice that really helps my private clients when they transition from practice to real-world speaking. When you're talking to a native speaker, don't focus on the words coming out of your mouth. Focus on their face.
Ah, that's brilliant. Focus on the connection.
Exactly. Look at their eyes. Look at their expressions. If you're focused on them, your brain automatically shifts into communication mode instead of performance mode. You stop worrying about your tongue placement and you start responding to their human energy.
Your physical body knows what to do now. You just have to get your conscious mind out of the way. That's what finding your flow truly is. It's surrender.
It's surrendering to the music of the language. And the more you shadow, the deeper that music gets embedded in your subconscious.
We really want to emphasize that graduating from Module 2 doesn't mean you stop doing the physical exercises. The physical shift isn't a box you check off and never think about again.
Shadowing is a lifelong habit. Even the most advanced near-native speakers still shadow occasionally to keep their rhythm sharp. It's like going to the gym. You don't stop lifting weights just because you got strong. You keep lifting to maintain the strength.
So as we wrap up this incredible module, we want to look forward to the future. You've fixed your mindset in Module 1. You've mastered your physical mechanics here in Module 2. So what's next?
Now that your brain and your mouth are perfectly aligned, we have to give you something incredible to talk about. We have to upgrade the actual content of your speech.
In Module 3, we're moving from the physical to the structural. We're going to dive into the architecture of compelling conversation. We're calling it the conversational framework.
We're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to show you how native speakers structure their anecdotes so that people actually want to listen to them. We're going to talk about navigating small talk without sounding like a textbook.
We'll show you how to interrupt politely, how to change the subject gracefully, and how to express deep, complex opinions without getting lost in grammar translation.
It's going to be the module where your personality truly gets unlocked. You have the confident voice now. Module 3 will give you the conversational strategy.
It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal journey, and we cannot wait to start it with you. But before we get there, we have one final mission for you in Module 2.
This isn't a writing exercise or a reading exercise. Your mission for Episode 10 is an internal reflection. We want you to take 10 minutes today, sit quietly, and reflect on the physical changes you've made over the last few weeks.
Think about how you used to speak before you started the blueprint. Think about the robotic, word-by-word rhythm you used to use. Think about the fear you had of dropping consonants or using contractions.
And then look at how you speak now. Look at your marked-up transcripts. Think about the flow you felt during your best shadowing sessions. Acknowledge your own hard work.
Once you've reflected on your journey, come down into the comments section of this finale episode. We want you to write a message to the community. Tell us what your biggest physical breakthrough was during Module 2.
Was it finally understanding the lazy schwa? Was it the power of the silent pause? Was it realizing that you don't have to pronounce the final T in the word can't?
Share your biggest victory with us. We read every single comment, and seeing your breakthroughs is what fuels us to keep making these masterclasses.
It builds a beautiful wave of motivation for everyone else reading the comments. We're a global community, and we're all finding our flow together.
You've achieved something remarkable here. You've taken control of the physical instrument of English. You are no longer fighting the language, you're writing it.
Take a deep breath. Enjoy the view from the end of Module 2. You have earned this confidence.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Anna.
If you're proud of completing the Rhythm of Fluency, smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed for the premiere of Module 3. We're just getting started.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.